Good afternoon from Finlandiatalo in Helsinki on Lahti. I am right in the heart of the arts district of Helsinki, and Finlandiatalo is one of 20th century Finnish architectural gems designed by Alvar Aalto. And they just completed a massive 3-year renovation project. The Finlandiatalo reopened in January of this year. One of the main reasons is because Aalto, for his masterpiece, and he designed like every feature and chose every element and material in this building, and he wanted Carrara marble from Toscana, which doesn't do well in Finnish winters. We all learned. I remember coming to things at Finlandiatalo in the 90s, and you could already see there's probably 12,000 tiles. The whole building is clad in marble, and they were already warping and cracking back then, and they just, of course, got worse and worse and worse with every winter and change of seasons. And it's such an iconic building. It's so important. It used to be the home of the Philharmonic. The Philharmonic now has a gorgeous little gem of a building with far superior acoustics. If you ever get a chance to come to Helsinki, I recommend. But this is so important for architecture, but also as a meeting place. They hold huge events here, small events, any size event. If you're going to do it in Helsinki, you might as well do it at Finlandiatalo. And they now have kind of like re-envisioned it kind of as the living room and to have it open all the time. And that people can hang out at the cafe, they can do work here, they do other exhibitions and all kinds of programming. As well as they still do concerts here. But and behind me is a sculpture they put in. It's called the Entertainer's Day Off. But anyway, so they replaced 12,000 tiles of Carrara marble. They of course did a little research this time, and they found out that this marble from Alto Adige, also further up north in Italy, the Lasa Bianco Nuvolato, would do well in this climate, and it looks great right now. But they just installed it in the last couple of years, and it's a little different, but it's still beautiful. And the Nuvolato is like, because you kind of see these, it's almost like cloud patterns on them, and you can obviously look up their website or whatever and see pictures. I may at the end do a little walk around and we'll look at the exterior of this building, but this is going to be a long video, and I know few people are going to listen to it. But the reason I'm doing it here is because I tried to do this Cesare Pavese poetry short, not really a short, but I tried to do it from Central Park, from not Central Park, New York, but Central Park, Helsinki, or Keskuspuisto, and I found this lovely boulder. There are all kinds of forests. There's primeval forest farther north, but there's lovely mixed forest and trails all through, and then there's one section that has these beautiful boulders on them, and I found this great high spot, but it's also favored by a lot of other people. And so I did 2 takes of the video. I had gotten in like 9-10 minutes, and dog came up to me and nudged me and said hello and stuff. And then I tried another video, and then a different dog, a husky, came up to me and wanted to hang out as well I picked this amazing spot. And then I tried to redo it again, and then this really nice gentleman and his grandson, who has moved away from Finland and was visiting home, they came up there because he said that that's been their family spot for years, that they would have picnics there on the top of this boulder, and all kinds of things, and that the older guy said that he walks there all the time. And then they were asking me why I found it and what I was doing, and I'm like, it's not your rock just because you've been coming here for 80 years. No, I don't. But it was, but I kept getting interrupted, and then it got darker and darker and darker. I was like, this is a sign. I'm going to reconfigure, and then I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to Finlandiatalo. And so here we are, and we're going to talk about Cesare Pavese. In my view, one of the greatest Italian writers of the 20th century. It's difficult to talk about Italy and who the best writers are because it's like, what time period are you talking about? And there's just such a long list. But Pavese has, I feel a deep connection with him because he's from the Langhe Hills, my favorite part of Italy, the Piemonte, the Barolo and Barbaresco wine regions. But he's from closer to the city of Asti, and in fact his town is extremely well known as producing the very finest Moscato d'Asti. When there's like care and attention and selection of premium grapes and all that craftiness that goes into it, it's an exquisite wine that is the perfect thing if you're outside on a summer afternoon or fall or spring with a nice plate of fresh fruit and some like cheeses. That's what you want to drink. And I know that commercialization and bastardization of Moscato has taken place, but there still are some exquisite producers. My friend Paolo Saracco, I carried his wine all the years I was in Pensacola. I just had lunch with him. Well, I guess that would be almost a year ago when I was in the Piemonte. And he's not far from where Cesare Pavese grew up and where Pavese is buried. Pavese was extremely prolific. Grew up in the hills, in the vine-covered hills, and he talks about the nocciola, the hazelnuts, and then the vigne, the vines, all throughout his novels, especially in La Luna e il Fallo, The Moon and the Bonfires, his last novel. But a little sketch about Pavese, in case you're not familiar. He wrote novels, essays, poetry, and he was a prodigious translator, especially of American literature. He did his dissertation on Walt Whitman. He loved Walt Whitman, and you can see in his poetry the influence of formality versus free verse, and just getting right down to the heart of the matter. And that traces through all of Pavese's writing, especially La Luna e il Fallo, Moon and the Bonfires. He is, it's inelegant, it's blunt. He's trying to get to the essence, but he's telling a simple story. He's not using, blockbuster descriptions, and he's not trying to impress you with his vocabulary. He's using the simplest words possible to convey deep feelings, and a lot of it is bleak. He actually wrote that novel in 2 months. It's a fairly short novel, but he wrote every day at least a chapter. And he knew it was going to be his last because he killed himself not long after he wrote it. He took sleeping pills in a hotel room in Torino. He lived in Torino. He studied in Torino. His publisher was in Torino. But his soul was in the Langhe Hills. And if you ever have been there or you ever go there, you will understand why. Every region of Italy has its beauty and its distinctiveness, but I identify and feel the Langhe Hills, Barolo, Barbaresco, Asti, those areas, and the people and the culture, the cuisine. It's exquisite. I'm writing a long essay about the tartufo, the vino, and the gente. Um, um, I'm trying to write an article. It was originally just going to be about white truffles, but truffle season is upon us. I've been several times, and not going to be there this year, unfortunately. But I I'm I think that's why I chose Pavese, because it's October, and I was thinking about truffles. He mentions truffles a lot in his writings. It's amazing what he could extract from. You go through his town. I've walked through his town a couple times, Santo Stefano di Balbo, and it's unremarkable. But what he mined from there just shows us the treasures all around us. And I like there's a very minor, not great poet who once said that your heart can be filled from anywhere on earth. And Pavese did that, but there was a lot of darkness in his heart. Anyway, I could go on talking about him all day, but as I mentioned, that he was deeply influenced by American writing. He translated Melville. He translated, his favorite novel, of course, was Moby Dick. Sherwood Anderson, Sinclair Lewis. He did a lot of John Dos Passos, which nobody reads anymore. And he was absolutely taken by that aesthetic, and he tried to bring that into Italian literature. He also introduced some new forms of poetry, and you can feel that he has the poetic soul in his novels. But it was just like plain language, blunt descriptions, short sentences, kind of like Hemingway, but not. And he talked about, only the deepest elements of life, which he found in ordinary, simple objects and scenes and people. And that's a very, very Piemontese, Langhe, Barolo thing. If you go there, if you're introduced to Barolo at some fancy event in New York or Tokyo or somewhere, you're not thinking about where it comes from, what those villages look like. They're beautiful. The landscapes are beautiful, but it's just an agricultural product at the end of the day. And and I've gained so much respect for the people in that region. I love them, and that they have this almost like Finnish sisu quality in them. Because for many years, for many decades, before improvements in vinification and before the climate changed in that region, they would say 3 out of 10 years you would have a good harvest, but many years the Nebbiolo grapes didn't ripen enough. There's hail, grandine. There's all kinds of conditions that can ruin a harvest, and so it was a hard scrabble place. Now they're having consistent harvests, but I see that it's like, but in Pavese's day, he lived in the, he only lived 42 years. He died in 1950. No, wait, I'm gonna have to look that up. Sorry, somewhere around 1950, 49, and. It's like what he got out of that from literature is stunning and rare. And there's an annual conference about him in his hometown that brings in people from all over the world. And a lot of scholars in Italy and other places still talk a lot about him and his impact in his brief, troubled life. And so I've been running on and on and on. I'm going to read this poem both in English and in Italian because I think it gives a sense of it, and there are a couple words that I don't like this translator chose, but it's the mania for solitude, la passione or la passione per solitudine. And he says, I don't want to have to do this again. Okay, I'm eating a little supper by the bright window. Mangio un poco di cena seduto alla chiara finestra. The room is already dark. The sky is starting to turn outside my door. Nella stanza è già buio e si guarda il cielo a uscir fuori. The quiet road leads, after a short walk, to open fields. Le vie tranquille conducono dopo un poco in aperta campagna. I'm eating, watching the sky. Who knows how many women are eating now? Mangio e guardo nel cielo. Chissà quante donne stanno mangiando a quest'ora. My body is calm. Labor dulls all the senses. And dulls women too. Il mio corpo è tranquillo. Il lavoro stordisce. Il mio corpo è ogni donna. Outside, after supper, the stars will come out to touch the wide plain of the earth. Fuori, dopo la cena, verranno le stelle e toccare sulla larga pianura. The stars are alive, but not worth these cherries, which I'm eating alone. Le stelle son vive, ma non valgono queste ciliegie che mangio da solo. I look at the sky, know that the lights are already shining. Among rust-red roofs, noises of people beneath them. Vado il cielo, ma so che fra i tetti di ruggine qualche lume già brilla e che sotto si fanno rumori. A group of my drink and my body can taste the life. Un gran sorso e il mio corpo assapora la vita. Of plants and of rivers, it feels detached from things. Delle piante e dei fiumi, e si sente staccato da tutto. A small dose of silence suffices, and everything's still, in its true place, just like my body is still. Basta un po' di silenzio e ogni cosa si ferma nel suo luogo reale, così com'è fermo il mio corpo. All things become islands before my senses. Ogni cosa è isolata davanti ai miei sensi, which accept them as a matter of course, a murmur of silence. Che l'accettano senza scomparsi, un brusio di silenzio. All things in this darkness, I can know all of them, just as I know that blood flows in my veins. Ogni cosa nel buio la posso sapere, come so che il mio sangue trascorre le veine. The plain is a great flowing of water through plants, a supper of all things. La pianura è un gran scorrere d'acqua tra l'erba. Una cena di tutte le cose. Each plant and each stone lives motionlessly. I hear my food feeding my veins. Ogni pianta e ogni sasso vive immobile. Ascolto i miei cibi nutrirmi le vene. With each living thing that this plain provides, di ogni cosa che vive su questa pianura. The night doesn't matter. Non importa la notte. The square patch of sky whispers all the loud noises to me, and a small star struggles in emptiness. Il quadrato di cielo mi sussurra di tutti I fragori e una stella minute si dibatte nel vuoto. Far from all foods, from all houses alien, lontano dai cibi delle case diversa. It isn't enough for itself. It needs too many companions. There in the dark, alone. Non basta e se stessa e ha bisogno di troppe compagne. Qui al buio, da solo. My body is calm. It feels it's in charge. Il mio corpo è tranquillo e si sente padrone. So, I get chills every time I read that poem because I think it's one of his best lyrics that distills in very plain language and on one level in very pedestrian, conversational, or not conversational, but more like basic description. You know, the guy's eating dinner alone, looking up at the sky, sees the stars, relates it to, he's thinking about things beyond himself, he's thinking about women, he's thinking about his loneliness, you know, what's worth it. I love that line. I love that line. The stars are alive, but not worth these cherries, which I'm eating alone. In that context, in a long poem like this, sentences taken out of context, they don't. They're not going to move you in some deep way. He's not going to a poetry slam and trying to wow you with his flights of fancy. He's telling in a very, very controlled but imaginative way his thoughts on solitude. And it's interesting it calls it La Passione because it's that this is not a poem that you would say is of deep, deep passion. But it's the stillness. It's like some people say, at one point in my life I was looking for adventure. I was looking to try out everything. I was looking to, get to the core of the meaning of this life. And then later on, I just wanted the stillness and to learn from that and dig deep within my soul. And so that's what I feel this poem is doing. And he's talking about the veins a lot. And he's talking about connections between, simple scenes in nature. And he's talking about He's also talking, it's paradoxical. He's talking about the emptiness of the human condition on some level, but he's also talking about how you're noticing things closely, and the beauty of the simple things in life, and what you can gain when you dig deep in your soul. That's what I think he's doing. And he ends with that just very, very, he's again, there's no fireworks at the end. It's like, qui ho buio da solo, il mio corpo è tranquillo e si sente padrone. Which they translate as, here in the dark, alone my body is calm. It feels it's in charge. But, padrone is like, padre is of course father. Padrone is like, kind of like the big boss, or the guy who, it has many manifestations in Italian, and he uses that word a lot in his novels. It's like the person, like the master of the house, or the farm, or the whatever like that. I think padrone is a word that's earned and not given. But those are just some thoughts. It's perfect for a gray day. It's perfect for a day where you're around beautiful architecture and beautiful art, and you know that beautiful concerts are happening. I'm also near Udi, which has kind of become my office. Udi is the most beautiful and practical library in the world, where you can get anything done. You can rent all kinds of equipment. You can rent a sewing machine. You can rent, not rent, you just reserve, it's free. But a 3D printer, all kinds of meeting space for large groups, medium groups, for yourself. You can get a little workstation where you have like a little office. There's a beautiful terrace, there's beautiful cafes, there's a theater in there. So many resources, and the building is at once gorgeous, imposing, and supremely practical. When I first visited, yeah, that's right, they didn't build it until late 2017. It was a gift for the 100th anniversary of Finnish independence. And so yeah, there were those weird years in the early 2020s when I couldn't go to Finland. And then I finally made it back for holiday season last year, and I walked into Udi for the first time, and you feel at home there. And they use a lot of Finnish spruce all throughout it. There's a lot of there's a really interesting sculpture that you can walk into, and like circular stairway. And it's the ideal place to work. And I found a bunch of Pavese works in Italian, Finnish, and in English there. He's an author that you can live with for a long time, and it's just like, he went through the ringer. He took things very, very close to his chest, obviously. But his production, and like there are no duds among his work that I've seen. And then they published a lot. They found a lot of his works, his journals. They published his Ziabaldone. He had a notebook where he just had random snippets of all kinds of things, and there are some absolute treasures in that. And then he had, some poetry published after his death, as well as more formal essays, and just a close engagement with him yields a lot of richness in your life. And he was trying to strip away all of the ceremony, all of the ostentation, all the pretension, and get to the heart of the matter, and also honor his homeland, the landscapes and the people and the the simple life of his hometown and the Langhe Hills that has become even far more famous all over the world for its fantastic wines. And then you also have, all you have is wine or hazelnut trees. And the hazelnut trees, that's where Ferrero is. You can't talk about Alba or the Piemonte without talking about the wine and the tartufo, the special white truffles that are going on right now, or hazelnuts, which Nutella was created in Alba, and the Ferrero family still owns Nutella, and then they have other brands like Kinder and Tic Tac and Ferrero Rocher. So you can find their hazelnut products anywhere in the world. But look for my piece about my take on the Langhe Hills and the people and the products. And of course I include Pavese. I feel like, I've already gone 30 minutes. I doubt very many people are going to watch to the end, but I wanted to do a little sneak peek of Finlandiatalo as it is today on the 7th of October. And we'll look at some of those marble tiles that were replaced. It's just amazing that they had to replace all 12,000, and hopefully these will last a little bit longer than the last ones. And we're going to do some more Pavese, and I'm going to talk more intelligently about him. I just wanted to get this out because I was on fire. I had the inspiration to do this video with that poem, and I would have done a better job of it. I flubbed up a couple lines, but I'm just going to leave it in because I tried to get it done and I kept getting interrupted. Now I'm at this beautiful space. I'm feeling inspired, but I feel like I already did this one. And there's probably like 6-7 takes. But anyway, we're going to look around a little bit, the bay, and then some of the tiles. Yep, you can see behind me. Yeah, all those beautiful tiles were replaced, and then you'll see everyone goes around Tulanlahti. Very popular place to go for a walk or bike ride or whatever. And it's also convenient just to get around, especially if you're going out. There's some really nice restaurants nearby, of course, as well as the opera, the Philharmonic. There's theater going on. There's a contemporary art museum, and then there's Udi. All kinds of things going on here. And so I'm going to show a little bit, and we'll look at the front side of this sculpture as well. And again, that is, let's see if we can find it. It is, Entertainer's Day Off is the English title. Kind of a nice sculpture. I probably would have picked something different for such an iconic building, but it's playful and fun. It kind of contrasts because Aalto took this building a little too seriously, I think. That's why they had to do 3 years of renovations. No, just kidding. No, he's amazing, and also Alvar Aalto connects back to Italy. There's a square. No, square. Piazza. There's a piazza in the heart of Milano, kind of near where I think Inter's offices are, and also where the Bosco Verticali, the famous condo that is like every balcony has these trees on them, so from a distance it looks like a vertical forest. And it's kind of like the, and then there are the iconic skyscrapers, and then, but there's this like elevated piazza. They call it Piazza Alvar Aalto. So Alvar Aalto did so many iconic buildings throughout Finland, and he also did some like, I guess, housewares. And his wife was a great designer too. She has some iconic glassware. There's a vase that every Finnish home has. That's Alvar Aalto. He designed chairs, stools, hundreds of lighting fixtures, etc., etc., etc. So I'm just rambling on, but I feel good. I feel like I needed to do this video, and I hope a few other people enjoy it too. I'm sorry I didn't do the poem as well as I was going to do it, or I started to do it a few days ago when the dogs and the people kept interrupting me, which was beautiful. I had great interactions, but I was so psyched to do that poem then, and my ideas were just about Pavese and the poetry, and then it's like when I did it today, I feel like I'd already moved on in my mind. It's a poem that's always worth going back to, but it's so funny how those things work. Like I feel like I've already done this. So anyway, carry on, enjoy, and we will see you tomorrow, hopefully, and probably a different poet, but we are going to revisit Pavese.